Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game. I am your host, community ambassador for Collective, Stranger Side, and I am joined today by my only guest, but very, very special guest, and he's back at what appears to be the exact same dorm he was in before. Empty.
The dorms look really similar to each other. Everyone.
They just move you back to the one room. That's your dorm. So anyways, yes, sadly, Grief's grandma is not feeling well and he was tending to her. We here at Submitted would like to wish you, we really hope you get well soon and we really hope you're doing good. Y'all might have know Grief's grandma from always being the thing that occasionally calls Grief away during the episodes, and we just really hope she does well. So let's jump straight into it, starting with the accepted submissions. These are cards we got in last week, starting with the Tarantutor. Toot toot. 3-drop Spirit 1/3 Spider Teacher from Teados, Spidery Realm, with Ambush and active draw a card that costs 1 more than your max mana. So this is really interesting. Spiders came back, and spiders are losing their identity. I feel like they're not becoming very much blocking matters and are kind of like bleeding into this more general good stuff, which is probably a great place for them to like go and then converge back on a theme that works. And what I like about Tarantutor in particular is that it can work in a lot of different decks. I can see running this just because it just lets you get it roll into a nice curve. And we'll make sure that you can hit all those higher up drops. I don't think it creates enough pressure to be a must remove. And on the art front, it's really, really cute. What do you think, Empty?
Yeah, I'm very glad that spiders have gone away from the blocking matters identity. And we'll see where this new direction goes. This card lets you run a deck that's like very low to the ground and then still be able to draw like your higher cost cards, the few that you run in your deck. The issue is like, it's pretty fragile. And especially, man, I always like when I see cards with low attack, I'm like, oh man, this can get removed super easily by Daylings. But that's honestly a problem with a lot of spiders, so they're going to have to find some solution to that issue. Maybe they can get their own units deadly somehow. But yeah, it's a fine card.
Deadly used to be part of their identity. We need a keyword that's just this has like plus attack outside of combat. Sure, this is a 5/3 except in combat. Yeah, that would I don't know if that would actually fix it. But yeah, so since we only have 2 panelists, expect for this to go at a pretty steady clip, guys.
Yeah.
The Turbo Charger is a 3-drop neutral 4/3 robot from nowhere in particular. Interesting. Using one of those old Tarian arts. With summon units in both players' hands, get +2/+2. I think there are some people who will have every right, and I am probably one of them, to love this card. What this does is it's a 4/3, comes down on a really good, I think this comes down in a really good spot. And then here's the fun part. It rewards you for running a board-based deck. Yay!
Yeah.
And it punishes players who aren't playing a board-based deck. Synergizes really well with stuff like the hand token, so ring the bell, the grunts. I'm sure there's plenty of other things I'm missing. So it could play a nice little spot in food. I don't know if I like the art choice because the thing is clearly in the air and it doesn't have flying, but it's also cropped really weird and I can't really quite tell what it is. Besides all that though, this is a really, really cute design and I really, really enjoy this. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I love this card. I think, like you said, this slots very naturally into food. Ring the Bell is a really good choice with this. I think like a really good turn 3 combo will be turn 2. You play like the little Dayling that like force plays a food the next turn. And then turn 3, you drop this, and then you drop some Ring the Bell tokens that you had in your hand. You have a really solid board. It's just a great card and encourages like unit-based decks and a more swarm in hand play style, maybe with prototypes too.
And it also gives you this fun kind of like risk reward thing, because like certain matchups, you could run into problems with this in certain matchups, but what it really does for aggro is it speeds your clock up. So since you're going to be the one leveraging this, the only thing that is really, really going to be weird and exciting is a mirror match. And
that'll be interesting.
And a mirror match with that thing would be a fun, hot mess to play, I bet.
It'll be a contest of who can keep the most tokens in hand.
Pretty much. Okay, so we only do 2 active picks. We only got 2 panelists or accepted picks. So now we're gonna move to the active submissions. These are cards that got in or that are up for voting on the Reddit this week. Starting with the Ovenbreak is a 3-drop mind event from Zucrose. Would deal 1 damage to all units and then create 3 Brave Gingerbread in hand. The Brave Gingerbread are 1/1/1 Sweet Warriors with Ambush and Entomb, restore 1 HP to your hero. Firstly, and I cannot get away without commenting about this, I am just a stickler. That's not how you word that effect, but setting that aside, that can be fixed. That's just gain 1 HP, right? Is how we always do that.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I think technically, like, healing is different than plus HP since you can't go up with the cap.
But restore isn't.
Well, we don't use restore, so I don't know what that means.
Okay. So anyways, setting that aside, bunch of little 1/1s and a big giant rage proc, or a board clear against smaller units. This is quirky, mostly because like the affinity, which is already, I feel like, this definitely does play with some really old mind cards and legacy. And I'm sure there's some other interesting things you could do with this. But as it stands, it's a good little aggro 1 HP hate sweeper. I don't really know too much to say about this. MP, what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's very weird. I also like how like mine can have healing, but only when it's on token cards.
Token's neutral.
Yeah.
Starship's neutral.
It's just like an anti-aggro card. I think that's where it's gonna find its home. If it was in strength, you might be able to run it in like rage, but it's not. So I don't see you running this off affinity.
Now, running this, well, because maybe say we're in off affinity and I don't know where shifter's gonna be, you then can get this with rebound, and then you get 2 sets of rage procs and you sweep up 3 HP, maybe?
That's decent.
That'd have to be a really wacky build, probably.
It's so like that's a lot of mana to play all of that.
Yeah. I don't know. It looks cute though. Like I really like the aesthetics and the flavor of the card, the whole like forged in fire type thing. The Rune of Power. Oh, this one's a head scratcher. Is a 1-drop neutral 0/2 rune with can't attack and active. Give another unit +2/+1 and destroy this. So for those of you who are very, very astute, or for those of you who just don't know much, I'm going to inform you that you're right, or you didn't know this. This is very, very similar to a cycle of Magic the Gathering cards called the Seals. The Seals. And so you pop, they're an enchantment, you play it down, you pop it, you gain an effect. I want to believe, since I really, really like those cards in Magic, that something like this can work in Collective, but I don't think it can, and here's why. You are playing a card that can attack. I guess it can sit there and maybe be a blocker, but this doesn't have ambush. And then you're doing it for a buff, and that buff is already subpar. As to whether the seal type designs are actually possible, they might be just too slow. Like, I'd be really hard pressed to see what one of those would look like. I think this value, because of this design, can be bumped up a lot. because you're exposing yourself when it comes down. But I don't know. I'd want to hear another opinion on that, and that's why I picked it today. So, Empty, what do you think?
I don't think this is unsalvageable. I think so. First of all, the buff needs to be bigger. Like, even besides the fact that this is vulnerable for a turn, like you're waiting a turn for this buff, and there are cards where you just play them and already get a better buff than this. The other thing is, I think these seals, it would be worth considering giving them untargetable. Because all they're really doing is sitting around and then doing their effect. So it's not really problematic if they have untargetable while they're doing that, and it prevents your opponent from just dueling away all your seals. Especially if you want like a seal deck to be a thing, you really can't have that just auto lose to duelists all the time since they're so prevalent.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I wanted this to work. They're some of my favorite little Cycles of Magic cards, but right now it just won't. And I'm glad to hear that you echo a lot of my sentiments on that. Okay. The Roaring Jascur is a 5-drop Spirit 6/4 beast from Swiatlo with agile and can't block, and summon, exhaust all units with less attack than this. I think this is a resub. I don't know if it's changed too much from the last version we saw, but I really like this card, and so I wanted to give it some hype again. First of all, Fadus, as always, with absolutely gorgeous art referencing the Jasper art created by Blanca originally, and the roar effect, making everything with less attack than it cower, and then just slamming through with 6 damage. Creates a very interesting, very fun, visceral experience. I really like the idea. I didn't record where any of the cards I picked this week are sitting at. I just wanted to talk about this card. MT, what do you think?
I think this is at like 9 or 10.
You're 9 or 10? Okay.
Yeah, this is a really good card. It encourages this sort of like go tall style of deck where like you're not hitting your own units with your Jasper.
But even if you are, I don't think you're hurting. I mean, 6 damage is like a quarter.
Yeah, that can be good. The biggest downside, of course, is that it can't block. So you are like against aggro, you are getting a turn off, but the damage isn't going to matter that much if you're playing like a more late game style deck. So it's usually just going to win by running them out of value.
But yeah, I could see maybe throwing in one of those chargers on it to just get it like really big in hand, and then just slam this thing down just for that last bit of reach.
Yeah.
Or finding other, I mean, there are other cards, a couple of them in different affinities that also synergize really nice with this kind of effect.
You could lock down the board pretty effectively too with a summon retriggering deck.
Oh, that is fun. Just pulling all of these, using this as kind of a turbo fog card because this is a fog stick. That could be fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, this guy opens up a lot of really cool potential, and I hope you guys are willing to evaluate it amicably. Okay, the Wilted Widow is a 5-drop mine 2/4 human arcanist with fast. From nowhere in particular, with fast and summon and end of turn choose a unit to bounce. Now this is more of Stranger has really weird favorite Magic cards corner, because this one reminds me of the Roaring Primadox, which has been a long favorite of mine. And each upkeep, you return a unit to hand. And so what it's used for in Magic, if you're playing like an uber casual, super weird meta like I do, is it lets you re-trigger a bunch of like cheap ETB effects. And you can even use it in certain commander builds to do that more efficiently. Here, of course, because you're choosing a unit to bounce, I imagine you're going to be using this mostly on your opponents. But in a pinch, you can use it on your, unlike Roaring Primadox requires it be an ally. But I think this is a very interesting and fair bounce effect, which I am super interested in fair bounce effects, both the enemy and the ally variety. And as far as the actual VQGAN piece goes, I would say this is one of the less abstract ones. I can see what's going on. And so this is one I'm more comfortable with. It's still a little weird. It falls apart when you look at it, especially that face, but it gives a nice sort of creepy look. Empty, what do you think?
So I actually disagree with you. I don't think this is a balance effect. The problem, okay, so first of all, why does this have fast? I'm just very confused about that addition.
The idea is you can squeeze it in if you hit the right spot in initiative and then pass straight into combat. Maybe?
It's very minimal. So the thing is, like, you're already getting pretty good value when this drops, just from the initial like bounce.
Oh yeah, the summon part of it.
Yeah, and then on top of that, this is a must remove. Like, if your opponent doesn't remove this for like one turn, they're really far behind because you just bounce 2 of their units. And if they can't remove it after that, they're pretty much screwed. Especially if they're relying on duelists for their main source of removal, because this is going to permanent lock them in exhausted, and they'll never be able to duel it. So I think it's too strong, and it's going to be extremely annoying to face if it gets in too.
But having a good counter to duelist might not necessarily be a bad thing. I think what could possibly fix this, now that I'm realizing that summon makes it pretty oppressive, do you think dropping the summon would do it? Where this does have to survive at least one turn before it can reap its benefits. But
yeah,
of course,
absolutely.
You could get really lucky and get the fast thing on and then pass initiative straight into combat.
The thing is, right now, this is combining like initial value, like on play, with being a must remove on the body, which like you really can't combine those 2 things together.
Yeah. I didn't consider the impact of the summon. I would agree that the summon should probably go. The fast, I think, is quirky, but I think it's
fine. It's fine if it stays. I just don't know why it's there.
But yeah, so I think I understand now why people were downvoting this card, and I think it's fixable. And I really do like the design, and I even like the VQGAN art, which I've been kind of back and forth on those recently. So yeah, good job, Spike. Hope you're having fun at work and all that stuff. We miss you. We see you around. I'm not on VC enough. Embrace of Flames, another Spike design, is a 2-drop strength action from Lux with give a unit +2/+1. If this targets a wax unit, create an ethereal copy of this. I love this design. Ethereal is such a weird, quirky concept, but I really do enjoy it. The idea of having this like buff where you're encouraged, instead of doing a bunch of cheap buffs, this is good later in the game when you want to do just one blowout turn, hit 3 of your things or whatever that have useful summon triggers. Lots of really, really cool tricks that this can pull. What do you think, Empty?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really wrong with this card. It's just a really solid design. Really good use of the ethereal keyword as well. I like seeing the creative ways people are like using that on the sub and on the Discord. I really like, I'm thinking through like the different cards for like cost reduction on this, because if you can get this to 1 mana somehow, then it becomes like really scary. I don't think we have anything in standard.
Yeah. My other comment on this is the art is kind of reminiscent for me in a weird way of the Binding of Isaac Four Souls card game. I don't know if you played that, but it's really giving me that kind of vibes. And so, I don't know. We're here to celebrate and point out interesting things.
I think it's wax ruffling, like buffing up.
Yeah. This is his Mega Mushroom. It's gonna power up. It's gonna crash through a wall like the Kool-Aid Man. Portal Madness is a 1-drop neutral portal from Black Rift with mill 5 and shuffle in 5 overloaded portals. Overloaded portals, which is actually a token I designed, is a 1-drop. It's basically open the portals, but it specifies your affinity or neutral. So Surplus has taken an interest in doing Black Rift cards. Those of you know, Black Rift has this historic problem of it had a really, really shaky beginning, and then it kind of hit a little bit of a resurgence when some people were taking an interest in it. Very recently, we saw Hit and Run and then the rise of Mistfist from the biggest Black Rift announcer of them all, Blanca. So it's actually seeing some fun and interesting traction. As far as this design goes, this plays into like some mill support and also gives you some chance to pull in a couple interesting improvisations. So I think the biggest things this helps are things with recursion and things that can care about non-natives. So non-natives are currently sort of in a weird spot. We're building some stuff up with Agitator, Recruiter, et cetera, et cetera. And mill support, I mean, has been in there since time eternal. We didn't get Hugh Scullery in, which would have been a really, really great thing to do with this. If he gets resubbed, then this, I think, would do a lot better because of it. For those who see the combo, please look at the combo. It's a cool combo. Notice Hugh Scullery never said you had to pick 3. Anyways, setting that aside, I'll resub him next week. MT, what do you think about this?
I think this card is extremely weak.
Yeah.
Which, like, I mean, it's okay. It's not really meant to be a competitive card.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for the people who want to play, like, these fun sort of like scout decks, this is like a bit cruel to force them to play such a weak card. I think just adding like a draw 1 onto this would kind of fix those issues.
That's an interesting thought. I really, really enjoy that. You think just a cantrip would? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, like, you're losing card advantage to put cards into your deck that aren't even very good. Like, I don't think a lot of decks would even run Overloaded Portal to begin with.
Yeah.
And like, you're discarding a card from your hand basically to do that. You just give the card back. That's fine.
Well, Overloaded Portal, at least more people I think would run Overloaded Portal than open the portals, at least. Yes. Which was supposed to be the idea, was supposed to be how little can we improve upon it to make it actually runnable, and that's what I came up with. So we'll see. But yeah, seeing a version of this that could cantrip might help. I don't know if we want to wait a full week for a resub or whatever, but seeing that back would be appreciated, at least on my end, because I want to see Improv to Win and non-native support kind of work. The Laz Grenade Barrage is a 1-drop neutral action from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things, with create 2 Laz Grenades in hand and force play all Laz Grenades in hand. And the Laz Grenade is a 0/0/1 with Entomb, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. So this seems to be referencing a little bit thematically what the Agitator does, where he cares about a token in sort of a weird way. And I originally had, I think, a design out that the idea was that it forced discarded all of the debris tokens. This is weirder because, as far as I know, the Laz Grenade does not exist as a thing yet, right?
No.
And so this is sort of a weird debris mix-up type. It's very, very reminiscent of the debris token from Agitator. Why did you want to talk about this, Empty? This is a weird design.
I know. The reason I wanted to talk about it is because it confuses me.
Yeah.
I don't understand why the Laz Grenades aren't just created in play if you're putting them in your hand and then immediately playing them. There is something where, like, you're putting all your Laz Grenades from play into hand. So if you have other cards that generate them, then maybe you could do that. But the issue with that is that there's 0 mana. So why not just play them if you have other cards that make them? Like, it's really weird.
Yeah, if you had something that cared about, I could see it caring about them being played. So stuff like the Javelineer or whatever, the thing that whenever you play a unit deals 1 damage.
Force play overrides that. Like,
oh yeah,
force play doesn't cause triggers. Yeah.
Are you sure force play overrides it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a confusing design from an expert designer, so I'm like tempted to believe there's some combo out there we're just missing.
I mean, if there's some sort of entrance trigger, that would work, but there really isn't.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know and you look back on my cards, I absolutely don't do commentary on my cards. I think I've done one like once or twice. This is what commentary is for, because I don't know what this card does or why this card does what it does, the way it does it. Is there anything on the subreddit? Can you pull it up real quick?
Sure.
I kind of want to solve this mystery. By the way, the art is really pretty.
Yeah.
And I want to know who the Laz of Laz Grenades is.
Nothing.
Nothing. It's just a mystery. Just a mystery waiting to be solved. What's it sitting at?
0.
Nobody else has solved the mystery. Moving
If
on.
they were just created in hand, like it would be really cool to have for food decks.
Yeah, because they don't have can't attack or can't block. Oops.
Yeah.
Okay, the Slime Stew is a 1-drop spirit food from Tutela with feed shift +1, then give the new unit overrun. So yeah, shift is really cute. The interesting and possibly problematic thing for this is you very, very specifically need to be careful about your timing. Or no, this is the anti-food food.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about.
This is the anti-food food. Because if you play a unit, it gets shifted and is no longer subject to feed triggers.
Yeah.
No matter when you did it. Okay. So this isn't a food card. This is a food card with feed, but it's not a food card.
Yeah, you don't run this in food decks. It's horrible there. Because all the good food cards are like 1 to 0 mana tokens. You do not want to be like shifting them +1. You're gonna get really bad units from that.
But I could run this in non-native. I could run this on a bunch of 0 mana tokens to make them into 1 mana tokens, and then if Spikebird does what he wants to do with Mistfist, then we care about 1/1s now, or them being 1-cost units. So maybe. Are there any uses of this besides just fun, like randomness shenanigans? I don't know.
Yes, there actually is.
Okay.
So shift works off the base cost of the unit. So the way to run this is with cost reduction.
Yeah.
You want to run this with like giants and stuff. I'm not sure if there is a giant that costs 12 mana, but if there is, you could shift it into Kadar and get that out really early.
Oh, that is interesting. Okay, so for the couple, even for those who aren't interested in randomness, it can hit a couple interesting spots on the way up by just hitting an empty slot like Kadar's slot. That is cute. I really, really enjoy that.
Yeah. So like you really need to like just ignore the food deck. This isn't for them. Yeah. This is for the cost reduction weird giant deck. We just need a unit that costs 15 now so that you can play Mirage Swamp Stomper with this.
Yeah. Or someone needs to go make a unit with 17 so that you can Mirage Swamp Stomper into that.
Yeah.
Just use those plus 13, above 13 mana costs and just wreck some havoc. Don't even make it naturally playable.
And I really wonder how this works when there isn't a unit to shift into.
It shifts into nothing.
Does it give the old unit overrun? Because it says give the new unit. So
no, it will shift. It will shift into the ether. It'll just vanish.
Oh wait, I didn't know shift worked like that. Okay,
yeah,
wow.
You know your mana costs.
So don't run this with Swamp Stomper, man.
Yeah. Okay. Excise the Body is a 1-drop neutral legend from Mortstall with innate. And after you deal damage to allied units 7 times this game, creates a Rage Vessel in hand. Rage Vessel is a 5-drop, 8/8 robot giant. It's neutral from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead things. With summon, gain the rage abilities of all allied cards in play and graveyard, then deal 1 damage to all units. This is pretty cute. I love the whole rage, proc a bunch of rage. And there was a design from way back when that was submitted like 7 times by I think Hanoi that was specifically, this is a Hydra that gets all the rage abilities. It might not have been Hanoi, but anyways. And I'm glad to see someone's revisiting this idea, especially with that super creepy art. So you are our quest lover, quest aficionado. Yes. And so I'm sure you love this card and are about to tell me like the quickest turn you figured out how to get it off or something.
Oh, I haven't figured out the quickest turn to get this off. I haven't played the Rage deck in a long time.
I see. Okay. Well, what do you have to share with us today?
Well, I love it because it's a quest card.
Yeah.
I mean, not specifically because it's a quest card. The condition is very interesting and makes you think about like running cards that maybe you normally wouldn't run in Rage decks. Like a lot of times I think like there's these 1 damage like AoE cards that like you could run in Rage decks, but they're just not really efficient enough for them to be worth running a lot of the time. And I think this makes them efficient enough since they're so good at getting multiple procs on this off 1 card. So I think that'll like push the Rage decks into a very different direction, where they actually rely on the Rage more. Because like right now, a lot of times they're sort of hybrid with just generic robots.
Yeah. This also, one thing that this would make me run if I were to sit there and brew this is mill. Loading down my graveyard with 5 good rage things and then stitching all of their rage abilities together sounds like a really, really fun engine that I would even enjoy.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about this quest is that you don't actually have to run very many rage cards to use it. Deal 7 damage to your own units like 7 times. You don't need to run rage for that. You can just do it pretty naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it would be interesting to see kind of what can be done with this. I really, really love the possibilities. You actually did due diligence and mark down what it was doing at. It's only sitting at 4. Come on, guys, get on it. And Slime Stew sitting at 6. They know something we don't, MT.
You can also run like summon retrigger effects for the Rage Vessel.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you could. That could be interesting. Okay. White of Black is a 6-drop mind 4/5 Arcanist from Seal of Elementary. With whenever you choose a target for your action, this deals 2 damage to it if it's an enemy or gives it +2 HP if it's an ally. So yeah, I really do, things I really, really do enjoy about this. First of all, the absolute like quirky cartoon supervillain nature of the flavor package here. It being Blanca de Noir and having the that sort of like outfit there. I really, really absolutely love the style of this card, and I would love to see more GoDoggoGo art. I don't tend to see them around on the Discord a lot, but I really, really like this art, and I really, really like the flavor package here. Let me actually read what this says. Whenever you choose a target for your action, this deals 2 damage to it if it's an enemy or gives it +2 HP if it's an ally. So this works really, really well for a bunch of sort of like if you have a bunch of target actions. The problem I see with this is because it makes everything into a bolt. Well, not a bolt, but very, it's a shock in Magic terms. Even at 6, this is just I don't really see people using the other side of this. It also doesn't have it's not a human. What is this thing?
An Arcanist.
It's just an Arcanist. I'm worried about the power level of this thing, Empty. Should I?
No, it's 6 mana.
Okay.
It's just too late for this to be that impactful.
But any
Especially
earlier, and it
because-
would just be bad, or just be like gross good, right?
Yeah, but it's not earlier.
Yeah.
So what I think for this card is, so one, I think it should cost less, but I think the first part of it should do 1 damage instead of 2. I also think there's a really good argument to be made for making this neutral. Since in mine, there's no deck that's going to use that second part. It's basically fluff text. It's just irrelevant.
I would also argue on the aesthetics of the thing that if the card's black and white and it's going for that, make the affinity.
Yeah, it fits really well on neutral. It's all grays, whites, and blacks.
Yeah.
But I really like the idea behind this design. Adding additional bonuses onto targeting things with your actions is a really cool idea. I just think this needs a bit of tuning in the balance department.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Switching that to 1, I can honestly see bumping that. Depending on what mana cost this ends up at.
If it's still at 6, then absolutely yes. Plus 2 HP is not that great.
Yeah, it could be +3, +4 maybe. And it would be fine. And I know there's a desire for symmetry, but I think this would be a good time to throw that at the window, because that being 2 damage makes it hard to put this any lower, which is where it needs to go. The Matter Muncher, we're going back to the Matter Muncher, folks, is a 2-drop neutral 3/3 wisp from Chromosome with Overrun, Agile, and Entrance, Shift, -1, and Ally unit. Notably, changes. This itself has lost Shapeshift, and it does not grant Shapeshift. So it's making no pretenses about fitting in a tribal deck, which that is a win. That is a W in my book, because it's now telling me a little bit more about what deck it goes in. What commentary do you have about this, Empty?
It's just a very good and interesting aggro card. You're going to need to make a lot of decisions about when's a good time to play this based on your board. If you want to drop this turn 2, it's a really good 2-drop, but you have to give up your 1-drop. And that 1-drop had to have lived, so it limits what you can run this with. It's just a really solid aggro design.
Yeah. I now that there's this version of the thing, and I could better focus on what actually makes the card good. Still maybe not my kind of thing, but I could definitely see running this with some cheap, a cheap token just to get rid of the drawback, and slam down with a 3/3 Overrun Agiler. And of course, finding a couple good summons. I don't know what those decks would look like, but finding a couple good summons and then taking advantage of those summons could be fun. I don't really know quite very specifically what the actual deck would look like. Do you have any thoughts about things that you would run this with?
Maybe sack Heldem, since you're going to be sacking a lot of stuff anyway. You can just put this on anything that's 1 cost and then sack whatever it turns into to negate the downside. And then Summon Bullock as well is another good option, since that deck runs a lot of sort of overcosted summon units, and the shift isn't really a disadvantage.
Yeah. So yeah. And our last card for the week is Touch Grass. Is a 2-drop spirit action from Terra. Withdraw a card. If it's a plant, it costs 1 less and you gain 3 HP. Now, I don't know what happened in the mix. There were some other versions of this card on the lab, and the one we ended up with makes me a little sad face. So, Master T, a card giving you back the card is the smallest thing that a card can do that matters. It doing that and costing 2 is absolutely ridiculously overcosted. But you might argue it doesn't, because occasionally that card is a plant. Still no. You cannot bet. I mean, even if your deck was 3 copies of touched grass and 3 copies apiece of 14 plants, this card is still much worse than Spring Dew that just has rebound, gains 3 HP. I liked earlier versions of this design. I think an earlier version of this design had draw a plant written on it somewhere. That could be really cool. So there's just some things to think about. MT, would you like to share some advice? Have I somehow just like gotten a brain tumor and misevaluated this card?
No, you haven't misevaluated it at all. You kind of hit the nail on the head. I think maybe the reason this got changed from draw plant is that you could use it as a green man tutor.
Green man could use another tutor. I like another green man tutor.
Yeah, you really can't run a card that can whiff this badly, especially when the upside is so low.
The upside is just not having a drawback.
Yeah. Man,
okay,
the Spring Dew
things that
comparison.
could practically work to fix this: draw a plant and gain 3 HP at 2. In my mind, would be fine. It would encourage a specific kind of green man deck, and I can see people not liking that. Draw 2 cards. That version would actually not suck as bad if for every plant you drew, reduce the cost by 1 and gain 3 HP. That
would actually be pretty good.
I could actually
at 2 minutes, that would actually be really good.
Yeah. Just draw 2 cards. Each plant you draw costs 1 less and gains you 3 HP. I mean, fix the wording on that.
I'm not sure if people would be okay with that.
Really? Because
I mean, so 2 mana draw 2 cards is already pretty good.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. So there's a couple directions.
Okay, there's a way to balance this.
Okay.
Just the current version is not it.
Yeah.
It needs to be stronger.
Yeah. How so?
Put it in the lab. Let other people solve it.
Lab it. Yeah. Have other people solve this one. Bump its cost to 3 and change the draw to 2, and then add the other stuff maybe. And then
that'd be a good solution.
And then it's good. It's so close. It's actually closer than I thought when I was first looking at this version. I was like, all those other versions, and then Empty was like, oh, but Green Man. I think this is actually closer to solvable than I thought, even without making it a problem in a Green Man deck. For those of you who just are haters and don't like Green Man decks. But don't give up. I actually like your ideas. I want to see where you go with these. I do believe that is our last pick for the week. We had to do things a bit differently. We're going to actually quit on time, actually early, because we only had 2 panelists.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining me today, Empty, so I was not completely and totally alone. It would have been horrible.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I hope you have a great first day at school. Anyways, like, comment, and subscribe to remind me why I keep doing this. We will be back next week, hopefully with at least 3 panelists, maybe 4. Might throw a curveball on you and get you a 5th. Who knows? Keep on playing collective and keep on voting on cards. Bye.